Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second webinar of the productivity series. This one is titled How to Avoid Unnecessary Meetings Without Being Rude. And today there's myself, Dario, and with me, Vivek, ready to answer any questions you may have. We both are, Vivek, you want to cheer our audience today?
Hi, guys.
Vivek and I are co-founders of Tweelin Incorporated, who is a startup in the productivity space. And today I'm going to be driving most of the content, and we will recap the first webinar when we talked about the Meeting Avoidance Framework, and we will drill down into the details on how to effectively implement this framework in your life so that you'll be able to accomplish more during the day and set yourself up for a promotion. Again, for those who missed the first webinar, don't despair. Follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook, and you will soon find the link to the recordings. It is an immense privilege for me to be here with you. And let's dive into the previous webinar with a quick recap. We saw that making your day more fluid is the key to unlock a better work-life balance. Intuitively, the less events in your calendar, the more focus on tasks that matter during the day, the less time you spend working overtime. And in the end, the better work-life balance and sense of accomplishment. And I introduced to you my personal story, which in extreme synthesis played like this. After 15 years spent working exclusively in the office, the pandemic forced me to change. And suddenly my calendar exploded with meetings. That pushed me to work overtime, about 13 hours a day. The situation became unsustainable when my third daughter was born. And I had to really find a solution to reduce work hours and keep my productivity intact. And after trying many calendaring solutions in vain, during a conversation with my father, I had an epiphany. Many of those meetings were avoidable. And the problem was the calendar itself. My productivity problem was the calendar itself, which is an antiquated tool. It's old. The more you use it, the more it limits your productivity. And I embarked on a quest to make my days more fluid, which culminated in the Meeting Avoidance Framework that I presented in the first webinar that helped me reduce the events on my calendar by 40%, as well as getting me promoted. If you're interested in more details on my story, please follow Tweelin on LinkedIn or Facebook, where you'll be able to find the link to the previous webinar. Now, the framework. It consists of 2 steps. Step 1, don't let anyone find any availability on your calendar for the next 2 days. Every morning, make sure all the empty slots in your calendar for today and tomorrow are busy with an event called block or focus, whatever you prefer. It is focus time for you. In other words, don't let anyone who can access your calendar schedule any one-to-one meeting in the next 2 days. This approach will not leave you out of important meetings with 3 or more participants, because all those meetings will appear on your calendar anyway. Same applies for urgent meetings to fight the daily fire. I know you're thinking, aren't you a bad guy by preventing those people from scheduling your time in the first place? Yes, that is why you need step 2, be proactive. If someone needs you today or as soon as possible, they will not get discouraged by your packed calendar. They will make contact via email or instant messages anyway. To express their sense of urgency and substantially figuring out when you can talk. At that point, you surprise the other person. When you're free and the other person also looks free, for example, through the online presence, then you proactively reach out via instant messaging, for instance, suggesting to talk right away. If she just texts you and she's likely still contemplating the message that she just sent you, then call her directly. This way, instead of saying, sorry, I'm all booked, and appear as an unavailable person or a bad guy, you come across as someone mindful and available who is going the extra mile to accommodate the other person's business needs. And when implemented the right way, this approach is very effective because it allows you to avoid putting stuff on your calendar so that you have more freedom to do what is best for you. Since you don't schedule in the future, but proactively act as soon as it's convenient for you, now you are anticipating a decision, or you're providing key information to someone else earlier, which means moving the needle faster, which means achieving business results faster. With the same amount of time, now you can make a bigger impact for yourself, thanks to fluidity, and for others, thanks to proactivity. And the others will appreciate interacting with you more than interacting with other scheduling-oriented peers. And this will make you stand out and get better peer reviews when a performance assessment comes. Some of you may be thinking, everything sounds good in theory, but it won't work for me because my situation is different, blah, blah, blah. These are all excuses to avoid a much needed change. Based on my experience, this approach can work for everyone. And the goal for today is to increase your confidence that you can make it work. And I'll provide you with tactics to handle the real life situations that you face every day at work. One aspect to clarify, with today's webinar, we're going to focus mostly on how to dodge meetings that come from people who want to talk to you. There is also the other way around, how to avoid scheduled meetings when you need to get a hold of someone who appears to be unreachable. We will be exploring this scenario in our last webinar. And don't forget to sign up, please. For now, let's focus on avoiding others to book time on our calendar and push us to work overtime. And to start, let me introduce to you an absolute productivity champion from our past, President Eisenhower. During his time in office, he launched programs that directly led to the development of for instance, the interstate highway system in the United States. He launched the internet, the DARPA project, the NASA with space exploration, and also the peaceful use of alternative energy sources, through the Atomic Energy Act. And before becoming president, Eisenhower was also a 5-star general in the United States Army. He served as Supreme Commander of the Allied Force in Europe during World War II, and was responsible for planning and executing the invasions of North Africa, Germany, and France. And he also served as president of the Columbia University, and also became the first Supreme Commander of NATO. And somehow he found also time to pursue hobbies like fishing, golfing, and oil painting. Now, how did he do that? What was his productivity secret? He did so much in his life. It was a simple matrix he used to prioritize any decision. Okay, this matrix was basically born for handling tasks, but we will borrow the axis and make a new version for communications in a business environment. Quite different space, okay? Let me tell you. we'll use our own version of this matrix to figure out how to handle various meeting requests based on the quadrant they fall in. Now, there is a big difference between the way Eisenhower worked and how we are working today. At this time, hierarchies were king. Instead, we are all part of more or less flat teams that have shared overarching goals that sometimes, but sometimes also, conflicting priorities. What is important for me may be not a priority for the organization or another team. And what is unimportant for me might be vital for someone else. Let me stress again on the difference between Eisenhower's matrix and ours. His matrix is about making decisions and task prioritization. Instead, we are prioritizing communication with others, which is a different beast. You can optimize productivity for yourself and eliminate tasks that are important for someone else and get a crappy reputation that won't get you promoted. So elimination isn't the right approach here when you're communicating with others, because it is interpreted as a disrespectful by the person who wants to talk to you. And with flat organizations and many more individual contributors and managers, also delegation is not always an option. Even if it is an option, the delegation has its pitfalls and must be handled carefully. If someone reaches out to you and you route her to someone who works for you, you might be perceived as affirming your superiority and implicitly saying to that person who contacted you that is not that important for you. So now let's explore these quadrants one by one, but first a pinch of definition of the axis that will help us understand each quadrant better. Urgency is pretty straightforward. Something urgent requires immediate attention. Something not urgent can be deferred. Importance instead is much more subjective. We define it as the extent to which an interaction with someone else is meaningful, considering our goals, personal goals, and overarching organizational goals. The important questions to ask are, does talking to someone have positive effects on customer satisfaction? Or does not talking to that person have negative repercussions on customer satisfaction? Or does talking to someone help with progressing on your top priorities? Or does any of your bosses in the chain of command endorse the communication? In other words, does your organization want you to talk to that person? Now, when a communication is important for you and it's also urgent, then it's time to act as soon as someone wants to talk to you. As soon as you find a "when can we talk" message in your notification stack, try to call that person directly. It shows positive intention. In case of no answer, send a text message, ping me when you're free, and be on the lookout for any signs of availability for that person. Some examples that fit in these scenarios are: your boss has a customer meeting and needs something from you as soon as possible. Or a customer is threatening to return a product because the part you own is failing. Or you are responsible for a project activity and a teammate raises a yellow flag for a possible delay. Now, the second scenario is when something is urgent but not important for you. In this case, always assume that the task is important for the other person. In fact, most of the time that is the case. So call that person at your earliest convenience when she appears available. Now, in this case, Eisenhower would delegate the task. But in our context, someone is looking for you to get an answer. And you have a tremendous opportunity to help that person solve an urgent, important problem for her. And that person will definitely remember that. And the next time your name will come up in any discussion, it will be associated with positive feelings and words, which is absolutely priceless to build a great reputation within your organization. Now, and the key here is behaving consistently. Help anyone. If you're not able to, figure out the right name for them and don't be skimpy in terms of words. Compose nice messages. Say thank you, say you feel bad, you couldn't help more. Add punctuation. It means you care about that person, that he or she, she's worth your extra effort you're putting in. Show vulnerabilities, tell the why of things. Do all of that and people will quickly see you as a trustworthy team player who deserve their support. Now, delegation. If you're a new hire, don't delegate communication. That's my recommendation. You'll be seen as distant and it will slow down your ascent to the next hierarchy level. If you've been around for a while and you built up a solid reputation, then delegation is an option. However, I recommend you to always tell the other person why you are delegating to, usually someone who works for you or with you. That way, the person who needs to talk to you will understand, and the impact on your reputation will be quite limited. Some examples in this quadrant. An operation manager needs to close the budget and needs your input by the end of the day. Or you are an engineer and a dependency on your product needs to be discussed because there's a dependent team that before another business unit basically commits a new initiative. Now, then you have a quadrant where the matter is important for you, but it isn't urgent. This is a tricky quadrant, which may fit various situations. For example, a product marketing manager wants to talk to you to make sure the copy for your product launch scheduled for next month is consistent with the actual product features. Or you are a salesperson and the partnership manager wants to get your feedback on a new program they're preparing for key accounts. Or, this quadrant requires a bit of creativity to figure out how to dodge the meeting. A good strategy is texting back and saying, since these days I'm swamped with XYZ, which is important because ABC, why don't you share with me the doc and I'll make sure to review it and comment it by Wednesday next week. This way, you'll do the work you need to do anyway, because it's important. And since you told the other person why you preferred not to meet, and you added generous context information that help that person better understand what is going on in your company, now that person sees you positively. Many times, people choose to meet to make sure that something happens. I want to meet so that the review of the marketing copy will surely happen within a certain time. This is something that sometimes program managers do, or project managers do. In order to make sure a task is made, they schedule a meeting to go through it. But if you show commitment and stick to it, and you have a track record of commitment that you are honoring, you are saving everyone the headache of another meeting. And the person now trusts you more than others, which means she will have good peer reviews for you. If you want, it's all about skipping the meeting elegantly and doing the work offline, whenever it is comfortable for you. And you can afford doing the work offline, by the way, because it is something you should do anyway. It is important. Then you have this case. The matter is not important to you and it's not urgent. So why do you need a meeting? Here, the art is stalling without being caught, while at the same time providing value to the person trying to get a hold of you. Reply the message with something like, for my own education, could you please let me understand why this task is important for you and we should meet? They will reply and you will ask more why questions while showing you are curious to understand. Comment and provide feedback. This series of why questions along with your point of view will help the other person clarify her ideas. Kind of steer them through questions to understand that what they think is urgent and important is neither of those, and there is a significant opportunity cost for you to talk about it right now. So you should do it later. If you've done a good job challenging her beliefs, you have bought time. And with time, things may change, along with the need to talk about something in the first place. You know, things happen and you don't have to talk anymore. By the way, often recurrent program syncs are meetings that are neither important nor urgent. So you should talk to the organizer and skip it this time because there aren't news from you. Try to do that. Then sometimes there are decisions to be made. So yeah, you attend it, but that's a kind of meeting you can sometimes dodge by checking ahead of time whether there's any news to be discussed. In summary, sometimes priorities change as well as plans. Let the time take care of things. You just push them back, just push meeting requests back elegantly and come across as very helpful to think things through. This quadrant is probably the one that requires the highest level of soft skills, by the way. So I hope you have enjoyed the journey so far. You might still feel quite skeptical about the whole story and framework. So I wanted to show you something 100% real, I swear. That's my calendar. Tweelin is not paying my bills. So during the day and sometimes evenings, I'm a product management leader in a very large technology giant in the Silicon Valley. And in my role, communication and relationships are absolutely key to success. The stereotypical calendar of someone with my grade would be an absolute back-to-back mess. But I perfected the framework, and the result is what you see in the picture. That is my real calendar from the week of June 12, 2022. And all the orange areas are just focus time I booked 2 days in advance so that I could work the way I wanted. Now, do you think I could not communicate as much as I should have? Wrong. Probably I communicated even more and faster by being proactive and reaching out to the other person when mattered. And I was free as a bird, free to focus, free to have lunch, free to go to the bathroom, free to stretch my legs. A huge, work-life balance improvement. And the great news is I'm not better than you, absolutely. And with the same exact tools I just shared with you, you can have a calendar that looks like mine and get more things done during the day. And my ask to you is give it a try for 3 days. After 3 days, you can go back to what you were doing, if you prefer. In the end, why shouldn't you try? The potential for gain far exceed a few mental resources you need to dedicate to implementing the meeting avoidance framework for a few days. Now, this really concludes what we wanted to discuss today, but we have another webinar coming. Actually, I apologize for not updating the date. That June XX is indeed June 26th, is the next Tuesday. It's the last series of the webinar, very important as it will close the loop and provide you with additional tools to maximize your work-life harmony, as well as your performance. Today, we finished talking about how to dodge meetings someone wants to schedule with us. We saw a two-step framework, a meeting avoidance framework that represents the strategy to put in place to avoid meetings. And then we saw the meeting avoidance matrix that gives you the tactics to implement the framework in real life. Next time, the point of view will change. We'll talk about you needing to talk to someone else who appears unreachable. How do you optimize the outcome in that case? Can you avoid scheduling a meeting? And if yes, how? Now, don't forget to follow us, please, to get new original content. We also have a new TikTok channel I started to post videos in, is Tweelin_AI. I'll say it again, Tweelin_AI, where you will see some of the videos, and a lot of the snippets of this webinar are going to go in there as well. And with this, I really wanted to thank everyone for your precious time. We are very appreciative. Should you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at feedback@tweelin.com. And don't forget to follow us for more original content.
Dario, this was very, very insightful. And one thing which definitely I want to call out is when you were talking about the metrics of the framework, you spoke about somebody early in career or new to the organization that he doesn't delegate. And I felt that that was very insightful and practical insight because, your repo is different at different stages of your tenure in the organization. So I thought that was very, very excellent insight there. So thank you for
Vivek.
that.
Thank you, Vivek. And I want to say something you might have heard 100,000 times, which is you only have one chance to make a good impression, and one to make the first impression, right? And it's only one chance. So if an organization hires you, whether you are an executive vice president or you are an intern, or even a CEO, being responsive and showing people you are there for them to, learn, but also help, and being as helpful as possible and responsive as possible gives a great first impression, a great imprinting for you to grow into your organization.
Certainly.
Okay. With that, I would say thank you very much. And, don't forget to sign up for the next webinar.